In the heart of a bustling city, nestled within the confines of a nondescript apartment building, resided Sarah, a young woman with dreams as vast as the horizon and a spirit as indomitable as the wind. She had always yearned for adventure and excitement, and she finally decided to pursue her aspirations by moving to a new city, leaving behind her mundane and predictable life. With eager anticipation coursing through her veins, Sarah embarked on a new chapter of her life as she moved into her quaint yet cozy apartment, eager to embrace the promise of a fresh start in an unfamiliar city. As Sarah unpacked her belongings, a knock echoed through the empty hallway, drawing her attention to the door. She wondered who it could be, as she had not met any of her neighbors yet. With a curious glance, she opened the door to reveal her neighbor James, a charming and affable man with a disarming smile that seemed to light up the dimly lit hallway. He introduced himself as the tenant of the apartment across from hers and welcomed her to the building. Offering a warm greeting, James extended a helping hand, offering to assist Sarah with her boxes as she settled into her new abode. Grateful for the unexpected kindness of her neighbor, Sarah accepted James' offer with a grateful smile, allowing him to lend a hand as they navigated the narrow corridors of the apartment building. She was pleasantly surprised by his friendly gesture, as she had heard stories of how cold and aloof city dwellers could be. With each step, James regaled Sarah with tales of the building's history and its colorful array of residents, his charismatic demeanor drawing her further into his orbit with each passing moment. He seemed to know everything about everyone, and he shared anecdotes and gossip with a captivating flair. Upon reaching her apartment, Sarah invited James inside for a drink as a token of her appreciation for his assistance. She felt a spark of attraction towards him, and she wanted to get to know him better. She hoped that he would be more than just a neighbor, perhaps a friend, or even something more. Little did she know, however, that her friendly neighbor harbored a dark and sinister secret that lurked beneath his charming facade. He had been watching her ever since she arrived, and he had sinister plans for her that night. He was not the kind and helpful neighbor he pretended to be, but a ruthless and cunning predator who preyed on unsuspecting women like her. As they settled into her cozy living room, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss, a nagging sense of unease that prickled at the back of her mind like a thorn in her side. She had invited James inside for a drink as a token of her appreciation for his assistance, hoping to get to know him better. He seemed like a nice and friendly neighbor, and she felt a spark of attraction towards him. Maybe he could be more than just a neighbor, perhaps a friend, or even something more. Little did she know, however, that her seemingly kind and helpful neighbor harbored a dark and sinister secret that lurked beneath his charming facade. He had been watching her ever since she arrived, stalking her every move and waiting for the perfect opportunity to make his move. He had sinister plans for her that night, plans that involved pain and terror. He was not the neighbor he pretended to be, but a ruthless and cunning predator who preyed on unsuspecting women like her. With each passing moment, James' demeanor shifted, his once charming facade giving way to a menacing aura that sent shivers down Sarah's spine. His smile turned into a sneer, his eyes narrowed into slits, and his voice lowered into a growl. He moved closer to her, invading her personal space and making her feel uncomfortable. It wasn't long before James revealed his true intentions, his eyes gleaming with a manic fervor as he confessed his obsessive fixation on Sarah, his words dripping with an unsettling blend of adoration and malice. He told her how he had been watching her, how he had followed her, how he had fantasized about her. He told her how he wanted her, how he needed her, how he would have her. With a chilling laugh, James lunged at Sarah with a gleaming knife clutched in his hand, his intentions clear as he sought to claim her as his own. Desperate to survive, Sarah fought back as hard as she could, her heart pounding in her chest as she grappled with her distraught attacker. She kicked, scratched, bit, screamed, doing her best to fight him off. She could feel the cold steel of the knife scratching her skin, causing her to bleed and ache. She felt his hot breath on her neck, his teeth on her ear, his hands on her body. She could feel his weight pressing down on her, suffocating her. Gaining her resolve, Sarah managed to break free from James' grip, pushed him away from her, and rushed to safety and ran outside before calling the police. When the police arrived on the scene, Sarah's apartment lay in disarray, testament to the horrific ordeal that had unfolded within its walls. To Sarah's horror, James and his whereabouts were nowhere to be seen, and she was horrified to realize that her stalker was still on the loose, lurking in the shadows and waiting for the opportune moment to strike again. In the heart of a tranquil neighborhood, where the streets meandered amidst towering trees and quaint houses, dwelled Amelia, a woman of gentle demeanor and a curious spirit. Her days were often spent immersed in the comforting routines of daily life, such as reading books, tending to her garden, and baking pies. But it was amidst the quiet hum of her surroundings that Amelia's keen eye couldn't help but notice the enigmatic figure that lived next door, Mr. Holloway. Mr. Holloway was a man of few words, his presence veiled in an air of mystery that seemed to envelop him like a shroud. He rarely interacted with anyone, keeping to himself and avoiding eye contact. With his reclusive nature and the somber facade of his home, he remained a subject of intrigue among the residents of the neighborhood, a figure whose solitary existence lent an aura of mystery to the tranquil setting. As the days turned into weeks, Amelia's curiosity about her neighbor grew, spurred on by the peculiarities she observed from afar. Mr. Holloway seldom ventured beyond the confines of his home, his movements shrouded in secrecy as he slipped in and out of his abode with an air of caution that piqued Amelia's interest. She wondered what he did inside, what secrets he hid, and what drove him to live such a secluded life. It was not just Mr. Holloway's reclusive nature that drew Amelia's attention, but also the peculiarities that seemed to surround his home. The once curtained windows now remained perpetually closed, obscuring the view of what lay beyond their glass panes and casting an impenetrable veil of secrecy over the house. The lawn was overgrown, the paint was peeling, and the mailbox was overflowing with letters. The house looked like it belonged to another era, a relic of the past that stood out among the modern homes of the neighborhood. On restless nights, when the neighborhood lay shrouded in darkness and silence, Amelia couldn't help but notice the faint strains of music that drifted through the air from Mr. Holloway's home. The discordant melodies carried on the wind, their haunting notes echoing through the stillness of the night, and stirring a sense of unease within Amelia's soul. The music sounded like it came from an old gramophone, a crackling and distorted sound that added to the eerie atmosphere. Amelia wondered what kind of music Mr. Holloway listened to, and why he chose to play it at such odd hours. She wondered if he was lonely, or if he had something to hide. She wondered if she would ever find out the truth about her mysterious neighbor. Despite the unsettling signs that seemed to permeate Mr. Holloway's existence, Amelia couldn't shake the feeling of compassion that tugged at her heartstrings. She felt a pang of sympathy for the lonely man who lived next door, and wondered if he needed a friend or a helping hand. Determined to offer her assistance to her troubled neighbor, she resolved to reach out to him in a gesture of kindness and understanding. She hoped that by doing so, she could break through his shell and discover the person he truly was beneath his mysterious exterior. One fateful evening, As the sun dipped below the horizon and the shadows lengthened across the neighborhood, Amelia mustered the courage to approach Mr. Holloway's doorstep. She carried a freshly baked pie in her hands, a token of goodwill that she hoped would warm his heart. With a mixture of trepidation and determination coursing through her veins, she raised her hand to knock on the door, her heart pounding in her chest with each hesitant beat. She wondered what he would say, how he would react, and if he would welcome her into his home. To her surprise, the door swung open with a creak, revealing Mr. Holloway standing on the threshold, his gaze fixed upon Amelia with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. He looked pale and gaunt, his eyes sunken and his hair disheveled. He wore a stained and tattered robe that hung loosely from his thin frame, and his feet were bare and dirty. "Come in, I've been waiting for you," he murmured, his voice a low whisper that seemed to reverberate through the stillness of the night. He smiled a twisted smile that revealed his yellowed and crooked teeth, and gestured for Amelia to enter his home. Despite the nagging sense of apprehension that gnawed at her insides, Amelia found herself stepping over the threshold into Mr. Holloway's dimly lit abode, her senses assaulted by the musty scent of decay that hung heavy in the air. She felt a cold and clammy hand grip her arm, pulling her deeper into the dark and dreary interior. As she ventured further into the dimly lit interior, her eyes widened in horror at the sight that greeted her. The walls were covered with newspaper clippings and photographs of missing women, some of whom bore a striking resemblance to Amelia. The floor was littered with bones and bloodstains, and the furniture was torn and broken. In the center of the room, a large wooden table was set with a macabre feast of human flesh and organs, and a carving knife lay beside a plate with Amelia's name on it. Amelia realized too late that she had walked into a trap, and that Mr. Holloway was not the neighbor she thought he was, but a cannibalistic serial killer who had lured her into his lair. The room was filled with a multitude of grotesque figures, their lifeless eyes staring blankly into the void, as if frozen in eternal agony. It took Amelia a moment to realize the horrifying truth. These were not dolls, but macabre creations made from the skin and hair of Mr. Holloway's victims. The stench of decay hung in the air, mingling with the musty odor of old furniture and the sickeningly sweet scent of death. An aura of malice emanated from each figure, their crouched forms assuming grotesque poses that sent shivers down Amelia's spine. Before Amelia could react, Mr. Holloway stepped forward, his eyes lighting up with The couple was looking forward to a rural retreat, away from the hustle and bustle of the city. They had been working hard for months, and they needed a break from the stress and pressure of their hectic lives. They had found a quaint home online, nestled in the countryside, surrounded by nature and tranquility. They had booked it for a week, hoping to relax and reconnect with each other. When they arrived at the quaint home they rented, they were greeted by their neighbor, a friendly and welcoming man named Daniel. He lived in a small cottage next to the home, and he was the caretaker of the property. He greeted them warmly and offered to help them settle in. He showed them around the home, pointing out the amenities and features, and gave them some tips on where to go and what to see in the area. He seemed like a nice and helpful person, and the couple appreciated his hospitality. As the days passed, Daniel proved to be a charming and pleasant conversationalist, regaling the couple with stories of local history and culture. He often dropped by for a chat, bringing them fresh produce from his garden or homemade treats from his kitchen. He seemed to have an inexhaustible store of local knowledge, and the couple enjoyed his company more and more. He told them fascinating tales of the legends and lore of the land, the secrets and mysteries of the people, and the events and happenings of the past and present. He had a knack for storytelling, and the couple found themselves captivated by his words. As they got to know Daniel better, however, they began to notice some peculiarities about him. He seemed overly interested in their personal lives, asking questions about their backgrounds and interests. He wanted to know everything about them, from where they came from and what they did for a living, to what they liked and disliked and what they dreamed and feared. He also exhibited strange behavior, lingering outside their home for too long and peering into windows when he thought they weren't looking. He seemed to have a hidden agenda, and the couple felt uneasy around him. Despite their growing concern, the couple brushed off their worries, writing them off as Daniel's eccentricity. After all, he was very kind and hospitable to them, and they had no reason to suspect that he was harboring any ill intentions. They thought that he was just a lonely and curious man who wanted to make friends with his guests. They decided to ignore his oddities and enjoy their vacation, unaware of the danger that lurked behind Daniel's smile. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and cast long shadows over the neighborhood, Daniel extended a seemingly innocent invitation to the couple for dinner at his home. Eager to foster a sense of community in their new surroundings, the couple accepted without hesitation, eager to share a meal and continue their friendly conversations with their affable neighbor. As they stepped into Daniel's home, the warm glow of the lights and the inviting aroma of home-cooked food enveloped them, masking the sinister undercurrent that lingered just beneath the surface. The couple took their seats at the table, exchanging polite conversation with Daniel as they awaited the arrival of the meal. However, as the evening progressed, a palpable tension began to settle over the room, casting a shadow of unease over the once jovial atmosphere. Daniel's demeanor had subtly shifted, his once easygoing demeanor replaced by a strained smile and an unsettling gleam in his eyes that sent a shiver down the couple's spines. Despite their growing discomfort, the couple pushed aside their unease, chalking it up to their own overactive imaginations in the face of the unfamiliar. They engaged in polite conversation with Daniel, attempting to navigate the awkward silence that hung heavy in the air like a suffocating blanket. It wasn't until later, as they prepared to bid Daniel farewell and return to the safety of their own home, that the couple stumbled upon the horrifying truth lurking just beyond the facade of hospitality. As they ventured into the backyard of Daniel's home, drawn by an inexplicable sense of curiosity, they were met with a sight that chilled them to the core. Before them lay a makeshift graveyard, a macabre tableau of shallow graves filled with the twisted remains of Daniel's victims. The couple's blood ran cold as they realized the true extent of Daniel's depravity. He wasn't their neighbor at all, but a cold-blooded serial killer who had been using the house as a facade to lure unsuspecting victims into his clutches. With the horrifying truth laid bare before them, the couple found themselves paralyzed with fear, their minds reeling as they struggled to comprehend the enormity of the situation. Daniel emerged from the shadows, his once charming facade crumbling away to reveal the true depths of his malevolence as he brandished a gleaming knife in his hand. In that moment, as Daniel advanced towards them with murder in his eyes and malice in his heart, the couple realized with a sinking dread that they were trapped in a nightmare from which there was no escape. With nowhere to run and no one to turn to, they were left to face the horrifying prospect of becoming Daniel's next victims, their fate sealed by the cold embrace of death that awaited them at his hands.